My name is Victoria Strong, and by the end of this video, you will know if a rebrand should be in your 2026 plans or not. If you're new here, I'm a brand designer, and I have a lot of people in my DMs all the time talking about how they're ready for a rebrand, they want to rebrand, and sometimes when I look at these people's businesses, they absolutely do not need a rebrand. A rebrand, depending on who you hire, can be a substantial investment, and when you're running a business, you really want every investment you make to bring in the biggest return. You want to make the most of every dollar that you're spending. So I'm hoping this video will clear things up about when you need a rebrand, when you don't need one, so that you can ask yourself these questions and know if it's something that you should plan and budget for, or if that money would be served better somewhere else. So I want to start with when not to rebrand. And this is the most common incorrect reason that people come to me saying they want a rebrand when really they don't need one. And I understand why. And that reason is just that they're feeling uninspired or bored in their business and they want something new to look at. And I understand why this comes up because the truth is a rebrand can be really reinvigorating and it can make you feel like just realigned and really excited to show up. When I do a rebrand, lots of people will come out the gate with that rebrand, putting out their best work, their best posts, their best products and services. Because the magic of branding is that it doesn't just appeal to the people you're trying to attract. It many times also appeals to you. And by logging in every day and seeing your dream brand reflected back to you, it just changes the way you show up. If you're seeing your dream brand, then you're probably showing up more like a dream version of yourself. The problem with this is that it can be a band-aid for what actually needs to be fixed. If you're feeling uninspired or bored in your business, for one, your audience probably isn't feeling too hyped about it either. And while visuals may be part of the problem, it can distract you from solving the deeper problems. Like, is this what you want to be doing? Are you good at this? Are you offering something of value? Are people getting value out of your products and services? These are the questions you want to answer before you go right to rebrand. It can be like slapping a band-aid on a bigger issue. The other thing is some of us have attention deficits, and we're going to get bored and uninspired in our businesses occasionally anyway, regardless of how aligned our aesthetics are, and you could be shooting yourself in the foot by mixing things up to keep yourself entertained and keep yourself interested at the expense of your business's health. There's a couple of things that make a brand valuable. Number one is alignment. When your brand is attractive to the people you want to bring in at the price point you want to bring them in at, a brand also derives value from longevity. And what I mean by that is the longer you maintain the same or similar branding, the more people start to recognize your branding, and that becomes valuable in and of itself because now you are an established brand. Now you have recognition. This is the value of branding for like really big companies like Coca-Cola, McDonald's. The way those images are so easy for us to recognize, that's where they derive their value. So the ideal situation as a small business is that you get a very aligned, beautifully designed brand, and then you keep it for a very long time. And so if you're using branding as a way to keep yourself excited and interesting, you're forgoing that second part of brand value. You're basically accepting that your brand will never become recognizable, will never become iconic, in order to serve your own attention needs that can be met in other ways. There are a lot of other ways that you can shake things up and change things up in your workday and in the things that you offer that won't come at an expense to the long-term success of your business. Which brings me to the second instance that you should not do a rebrand, which is if you've done a rebrand in the past 5 years. There are some exceptions to this, I would say, especially if you're in the first couple years of your business and you're finding out like, oh, maybe the audience that I originally had intended for this business isn't who's showing up and I want to change it to align to them, or I don't have the capacity to run the business I originally thought, so I kind of need to change the structure of it, which may change the branding. There's a lot of experimentation, and I think there's kind of like a free pass to rebrand in the first couple years of your project. But if you've been working on the same kind of project for 10 years and you have been rebranding every 1 to 2 years, I think that is a big red flag, because it means you've been in the industry long enough to be an icon, and you're not, because you're struggling to like narrow your vision, pick a lane, and commit to it. This is not the same thing as starting a bunch of different businesses. I'm talking about if you have been a photographer for 10 years and you've had more than 4 brands in those 10 years, and you don't feel like it's even necessarily narrowing down and getting closer every time you rebrand. You might just be doing it for fun. You might be doing it because you don't know how to find your values and how to find your audience. And those are all going to show up in like very deep ways when it comes to not getting bookings, not growing your audience, not getting the opportunities that you're looking for. So if someone comes to me and they've rebranded like 3 times in the past 5 years, or they're saying the only or the main reason that they're coming is because they feel uninspired, I'm definitely going to like dig a little deeper and ask a lot more questions before I accept them as a client, because I don't want to design a brand for someone that's going to be like a detriment to them, because I'm really passionate about results. And when I design a brand for someone, I want it to be because it's like the best thing or one of the best things that they could possibly do next that will like launch them forward in their business. So let's talk a little bit about when we do definitely want to rebrand. Okay, number 1 reason, okay, in no particular order. These are the reasons, these are all good reasons to want to rebrand, and the more you have checked off on the list, maybe the more urgent the rebrand is. Okay, number 1, if your brand values have changed. For example, if your brand, when you first started it, was very focused on like luxury and princess treatment and things like this, and now you're deciding actually you want to be like a little more down to earth, a little more grounded. No judgment to either ways of being. It's just like if you designed a brand or had a brand designed that was supposed to support this one vision, and your values have changed as a person or as a company, and you do need to express that visually, that is a good moment to rebrand. Number 2, when your audience changes. So if originally you had this service and the specific price point that you wanted to do, and then when you started marketing, you realized those people weren't really interested, but this group over here actually is kind of coming over and sending DMs and purchasing, we might want to pivot and face that audience more, and they may respond to completely different aesthetics. We want to design the brand so that those people feel seen and not like an afterthought or like a subcategory. We want them to feel like considered, and we want to market to them. That's gonna make them feel better. That's gonna make us get more customers. Win, win, win. Okay, here's a really interesting one. If your taste is an important part of your brand strategy, your logo, your colors, your fonts, whatever, are feeling unaligned with your taste or are feeling outdated, it's not gonna work. This is especially important for influencers, for fashion brands, for anyone who part of your strategy is being cool, being tapped in, having a specific style. Also very big for designers. Being aesthetic. Then your brand has to back that up, or it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. I've seen it so many times where people will forget that their brand is how they communicate that they have taste and what their taste is, and will kind of ignore their brand for a bit and just be like turning their wheels, trying to get styling clients or whatever. Like if your brand relies on your taste, if your own vision is an important part of what you're selling, either like literally if you're like a stylist or a designer or an influencer, or in a more like subtle way, like that is just what you bring to the table, that is the lens that you see the world through, and that's part of what you want to incorporate, and your logo is something that would have been cool in 2018, it's a massive turnoff. And it's kind of a subconscious turnoff too. people are supposed to trust your taste, and then what they can see visually from your brand doesn't support that, the trust never gets built and they'll never click buy, and they might not necessarily know why. So that one's really interesting to me. Okay, another reason we'll really have to rebrand is if the current brand you have is not attractive to the people that you are trying to sell to. This can be because, once again, the audience changed. It can also be just because you or your designer didn't do enough research before the brand was designed, so it's just not appealing to the right people. And how you can figure this out is by thinking of your ideal client, especially like maybe even like specifically like if you know someone online that you're like, I would love for them to buy from me, I'm designing this product for someone like this. If you can like go to their account and see what kinds of brands they're following, what kinds of brands they're buying from, you'll get an idea of what they expect when it comes to brand aesthetics. And if you have an eye for it, you can compare your brand to that and see maybe where you might be falling short or just way off track. Okay, and the last reason is actually the most common reason that I get hired to design a brand. This is when you're using your rebrand kind of as like a graduation, where maybe the first few years of your business you were in student mode, maybe it was more of a side hustle, you weren't taking it very seriously, or you were, but you were just like testing a bunch of different things, seeing who you're selling to and what you're selling to them, and just kind of like slowly letting the vision clarify. And now you're in a place where you know what you offer and you know who it's for, and you're ready to like either quit your day job or start taking it more seriously, start bringing in more income with it, or take on more work and just see the business and see yourself as more of a professional. That is a great moment to hire a professional brand designer to redo whatever DIY thing you did in Canva, or maybe you hired a student designer or like your cousin designed something and it's gotten you this far, but you know the current aesthetic is not big enough to like hold the whole dream, or at least even the next stage of the dream. So these are things I would want you to reflect on and think about before you decide if a rebrand is important. Think about things like, what has changed since the last time I rebranded? When is the last time I rebranded? Why does my current brand not hold my vision? Or am I just looking for something new and fresh and shiny to keep me engaged? What does my brand say about me? Who does my brand appeal to? Like, if my logo was a sticker, whose water bottle would it be on? Or do they even carry a water bottle? Or would they even put stickers on their water bottle? My brand is definitely a water bottle sticker brand. Now, just because some things aren't aligned doesn't necessarily mean it's time for a full rebrand. There is kind of a middle ground that is a brand refresh. And I recommend doing this every 2 to 5 years. And this is just like adjusting the logo slightly, changing the color, like adding a couple colors to the color palette or taking a couple away, slightly changing one of the fonts. It's just like these little subtle differences that can keep things feeling fresh and modern, especially if you're one of these like brands of taste, without sacrificing that longevity, that like iconography recognizability that we talked about. This is kind of the middle ground to that. So every 2 to 5 years, going in and like tuning it, fine-tuning it. You don't have to throw the whole thing away just because it's not all the way aligned with your vision. Okay, if after watching this video you're still feeling a little lost and unsure about whether a rebrand is in your near future or not, feel free to comment below and I'd be happy to take a look at your stuff and make a couple small recommendations to help you slot yourself into either rebrand time, refresh time, or chill out and focus on other things time. I hope you're having a wonderful holiday season, and I will see you back here again next week with another video.